Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the show that never ends. My name is Rod. Cheers. Also known as the Happy Hippie. And I'm here to do a video about the Stones, showing my small collection of the Stones. But in the background, we've got Miles Davis playing. Yes, this is a Rolling Stones video. So why am I playing Miles Davis? Because I want to. Something nice and relaxing. Rolling Stones, definitely my top band. Them and the Dead. I consider the Stones the greatest rock and roll band ever. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Just phenomenal. The Stones are it, man, for me. I'm going to show my little collection. I've had several Stone albums over the years. I've lost Stone albums. I'm going to start my collection off by showing VLCT that I've gotten by the Stones. First one is Exile on Main Street. This is not an original pressing, but it's a very, very early pressing from the 1970s. Fantastic album. 2-record set. Both albums are in great shape. Had the original inserts with it. Exile on Main Street is the album they did. People call it their country album. Mick Taylor, the American guitarist, and Mick Taylor was with the band at that period. It even had postcards still with it. And this VLCT was from my man Randall Weaver, and he sent me this and a couple Pink Floyd albums several months ago. Great album by the Rolling Stones. Some people consider it their very, very best, and it's definitely in my top 3 favorite Stone albums. Exile on Main Street, fantastic stuff. It's a double record set. Highly recommend it. Like I said, some people considered it a country album. Mick Taylor, they thought, was taking them in a completely different direction. So, that was one VLCT. Another one is, I'm going to show this one first. Blue and Lonesome. I've showed this several times. Blue and Lonesome came out in 2016. It's the Rolling Stones doing their favorite blues songs. Songs they did in clubs way back in the early 60s. When they were starting out. 2-record set. Blue and Lonesome was VLCT from Melinda Murphy. And I've showed this, and I don't like that glare. I've showed this a million times, and I'm sorry I keep showing it, but it's just a fantastic Stones album. And last but not least of the VLCT Stones was Beggar's Banquet, and this was from my man Steve at Value Vinyl. All value lives matter. He got a huge stack of records in, and he's a very generous man. He gave them out to people who would appreciate them and want them. Beggar's Banquet, a fantastic album. And this is an album that features Brian Jones, and this was the last album that the Stones would release with Brian Jones alive. Brian Jones was still alive when he worked on this, when this was released, I'm sorry. Brian Jones was alive when this album was released. It'd be the last one that he fully did with them. And I'll get more into that in a second. But those are my 3 Stones albums that were VLCT. And on the note about Brian Jones, this would be the next album that came out, and it came out after his death. And he only played on 2 songs in this album. They only were able to finish 2 with him before he perished, before he died. He drowned. Some people say he was murdered. If you look at the liner notes on this album, you can see he was only on 2 songs. Keith Richards did both lead and rhythm guitar in the studio on this album. So basically, most of the songs, there were just 4 of the Stones playing on them. And Jones, he played on, maybe I should have wrote this down first. Brian Jones, he only played on 2 of the songs, and it was clock is ticking. Tick, 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 tick. I know he played on 2 of them. Oh, here we go. Auto Harp on You Got Silver and Midnight Rambler. He played percussion. But the rest of the album was just Mick, Keith, Bill Wyman, and Charlie Watts. And this came out after his demise. There's still mystery around Brian Jones' death. He was like 24 years old, and they say he drowned in a swimming pool. But his family insists that he was murdered. Anyway, Let It Bleed. This is a reissue on clear vinyl. This may be my very favorite Stones album. I told you Exile Main Street was in the top 3. This very well be number 1. Let It Bleed by the Stones. I'm going to jump around. This is no particular order. Let's go back to the Mick Taylor era. It's Only Rock and Roll. It's only rock and roll, but I like it. Great album by the Stones. Had it when I was a kid, lost it, found it on, I think I found it on eBay, and I rebought it. But of course, had to put it in one of its sleeves. One of my new sleeves came with the original one. And I like the Stones because on their insert, they don't put pictures of themselves on this album. They put pictures of the backup band, the studio musicians. They're giving credit where credit's due, and I think that's pretty cool. It's Only Rock and Roll was a great album. A lot of people don't like it because it kind of moved away from that traditional just bebop rock and roll. Has songs on there like, oh God, what was I thinking? Besides It's Only Rock and Roll. If You Can't Love Me, Somebody Will. If You Really Want to Be My Man. It has some really cool stuff on there. Whoops, I meant to do that. You see what you get for not being organized, guys. You drop your phone while you're filming a video. And that's just not cool in the VC. That's how people think, oh, he's an amateur, let's unsubscribe to him. Still jumping around, going to Some Girls. By this time, they had gotten rid of Mick Taylor. He was gone. They left on good terms. They just didn't feel that he was the fit for the band. So they got Ronnie Wood on before Some Girls actually, but on this album Ronnie Wood was with them. And that's a perfect fit. I cannot imagine anyone else besides Ron Wood with the Stones now. Perfect fit, him and Keith Richards. And this album is the band cover. Because the likeness to Marilyn Monroe. The estate evidently sued the Stones or sued the record label. So they changed it slightly. This is an original pressing, an original copy. The vinyl is in great shape, except for one thing. There's a skip between Beast of Burden and Shattered. It doesn't affect either song. It just skips in the groove, so I got to get up and move it. But you know what? I got it at a very reasonable price. The original cover, I'll take it. Fantastic album. Some Girls, people say it was disco. Say what you want. It's the Rolling Stones. It's Only Rock and Roll, and I like it. Let's jump around some more. How about we go... I'm saving a grail for last, by the way. Let's do a reissue of England's Newest Hitmakers. I showed this before. This is just a reissue. It came out. You can get it really, really cheap. You get it for less than $20, and it's a great Let Stones album. And it's them doing blues songs. When they first came out, the record label said, man, no one knows who the Rolling Stones are. They did covers of traditional blues songs. And that's just the way it was. It wasn't until their second album they could put a couple of their own songs on there. Let's see. Let's go back into the 80s with Tattoo You, with the song Start Me Up. This one still has the original insert. That's what Keith Richards would look like if his face was tattooed. On this album, Start Me Up, had a couple cool songs. It had Little TNA, Neighbors. Do you all remember the video for Neighbors? Them sitting out on their front porch. Anyway, 1980, I believe this came out. I was like in 8th grade. I was living in D.C. I won tickets on the radio to the Philadelphia concert. The concert that was kicking off the tour. My parents were like, no, man. You're not going, so. But I did get to see him eventually in life. Rolling Stones, Tattoo You. And this is how they kicked off the 80s. And they followed it up with this album. And that Still Life. This was a live album. I believe it's a gatefold. And this was the tour of Start Me Up. And they did a version of, oh God, what was it? Was it, let me see. It was an old R&B song. Going to a Go-Go. And they actually released the Going to a Go-Go, everybody. And they actually released that as a single off this album. And the sound quality isn't real good on this, but it's a fun album, and I want it in my collection. We're doing some Record Store Day releases. This is a Record Store Day release of High Tide and Green Grass. And it came out, I did not get it on Record Store Day, but I bought it for about the same price I would have. Here's the insert. It came with a little pamphlet. Not really a book, but it came with a pamphlet. Just a couple pages. Got it on eBay, brand new, for about the same price I would have paid for it on Record Store Day. Beautiful green vinyl. And, you know, I have the songs on this already, but I just wanted a copy of this album. I like to hear it in the order that it was released on this album. Sometimes it's fun to hear it in a different incarnation is the word, maybe. But and more Record Store Day releases from the Stones, if I could find them. What the heck did I do with them? The 10-inch singles. This is from last year. She's a Rainbow, 10-inch single. I've only played it once. I just bought it to collect it. Really cool little 10-inch. One side is completely blank. Yeah, I'm touching it, but it doesn't matter because it's just blank. It's nothing on it. And some people may say it was a waste of money, you know, because I didn't buy it to play. I bought it to collect. I could have bought something else, but I want to collect them. And the reason why is because I found this on eBay a couple years ago and I bought it. And it's a single off of their blues album, Ride 'Em High is the name of the song. It's a single off of Blue and Lonesome. So that's my Record Store Day release, Rolling Stones. I got more than I thought, I guess. Emotional Rescue. Came out early 80s. In fact, this came out before Start Me Up. I think Start Me Up, I lied to you, it came out in 82. This was 80. The Rolling Stones Emotional Rescue. Came with a poster. The poster's long gone. And I remember buying this. Came out, I was in summer school, and it came out. Very sentimental. I remember it well. My least favorite Rolling Stones album, I've said it before, Black and Blue. I won't get rid of it because it's part of my collection, but it's just not my favorite Rolling Stone album. Goat's Head Soup, Mick Taylor, at the height of the Mick Taylor era. This was a cool album. Goat's Head Soup. Came with this insert of a goat's head in the soup. Gatefold album. This has a song, Angie. It also has a song called Dancing with Mr. D. A lot of great stuff on here. Heartbreaker. A lot of great music on here. And found something out here. The insert, again, the Rolling Stones showing their studio musicians, their backup band, on the insert of the album, showing respect to the other musicians. And I always thought that was really cool that they did that. I'll tell you something funny. I've told this story before. When I was a kid in junior high school, I had this hanging on my wall simply because it came out of a Rolling Stones album. And we had these people staying with us. And they were going to, it was actually my aunt and uncle. But they saw it on my wall and they pulled my mother aside. And they're like, is he into the occult? Is he a devil worshiper? He's got a goat's head hanging on his wall. I got a good laugh out of it. Years later, they apologized. They meant no harm by it, but I just found that really funny, comical. Let's see. Here's another Rolling Stones reissue. I won't spend a lot of time with the reissues, but they're fun to get, man. These are like $13 on Amazon, guys. Comes on clear vinyl. If you're building a Stones collection or you don't have much of one, clear vinyl. I see you. Definitely worth picking up, like $13. And if you have Amazon Prime, it's free mailing. This is a great set. Voodoo Lounge Uncut. The announcer on this is Whoopi Goldberg. They have guest musicians on here like Robert Cray. My mind just went blank. It's Robert Cray's on this, Billy. So is, let's see, I'll tell you. Bo Diddley. And there's one other one. Maybe that's it. But this is a great triple album set. The Rolling Stones. 3 albums of pure, just greatness. This was recorded in the 80s, I do believe. It just released a couple years ago. Yeah, it was for the Voodoo Lounge album. This is Voodoo Lounge. This was the tour for it. Very reasonable price. You can still get it. If you like the Stones, you like live music, this is a good album. It has a great sound to it. Some people don't like live recordings. I usually do. I just love live music. This is one definitely worth picking up if I can get it back in there. I may have to do it after the video. I only got a few left. Rolling Stones, Steel Wheels, 1980s. Rolling Stones. It's a cool album. So has the red cellophane that came on it. Shrink wrap, I never took it off. Let's see what year this was. This is mid-'80s, early '80s. Had Harlem Shuffle on it. One Hit to the Body. Really, really a nice Stones album. Undercover of the Night. This one still has the stickers on there. Remember, the stickers could be removed. I don't know if you remember this album. I didn't really dig it when it first came out. But it's a decent album. Definitely not one of their best albums. But it is, and I've lost my glasses, and here they are. Alright, now I'm going to do some compilations. But before I do the compilations, I'm going to show you. I told you Let It Be may be my favorite. It's between Let It Be and the Rolling Stones Sticky Fingers. This is a box set of Sticky Fingers. Those two, and of course XO on Main Street. Amazing Stone records to me. And now let me show you a few compilations real quick. Rock and Rollin' Stones. This is cool because it features Mick Taylor and the Brian Jones era. You can find this on eBay real cheap. Very common album, Flowers. And that was the Brian Jones era. Get Your Ya-Ya's Out. Some live Rolling Stones, early stuff. Again, on this album, the sound quality, the standards weren't real good. Let's just put it that way. But it's a cool album. Here's another compilation. Sucking in the 70s. Rolling Stones, the best of the 1970s. It's a cool album. I've always loved this thing. And this is not an original, but this is a very, very early copy of Through the Past Darkly. Early copy on London Records. I got real lucky to get that one at a very, very reasonable price. And now, well, not quite yet. Show you a couple solo albums. Won't get into them. Mick Jagger. I've never liked his solo work ever. Mick Jagger. And Keith Richards. This is a badass album. Keith Richards. It was finally reissued on vinyl after 25 years. This particular copy is maroon vinyl. Talk is cheap. Saw the concert tour. Had it on cassette when it came out. Finally got the vinyl now. Bought it when it was reissued, I think last year. Fantastic Keith album. And now I know this has been a long video, but to close the show, Mike from Jam on Vinyl, if you're watching, buddy, check this out one. On mono, red label, London Records, long play, the Rolling Stones now, and it's on mono, and it sounds great. I bought it on eBay from a guy, and I wish I had his name, his store name, to give him a shout out. Incredibly good price. Super good price. Super clean album. In mono. To me, this is a Rolling Stones grail. Not only is it a good album, but I found it in mono. I found it in good shape. So, slowly building it up to get all the Rolling Stones albums. It'll take me a lifetime and a fortune to do it, but I'm going to work on just their studio albums. Guys, I'm sorry if this one drug out too long. I'm sorry if I rambled, but I do that from time to time. Peace. We'll see y'all next time.